Hey everyone, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of Kurt on Cougs. Today doing a pregame warm-up for BYU versus Colorado. Huge game. End of the season. A lot riding on this one. We'll go into that and more. As well as reviewing some things that happened last week on BYU sports all around the country. So yeah, let's dive right in. First of all, looking at the CFP games. These games, honestly, a little bit of a letdown, at least if you were hoping for something very competitive. We saw Ohio State, Penn State, Notre Dame, and I don't know why I'm blanking on the last team. Notre Dame? Did I already say that? Yeah. Well, we saw those four teams all blow out their opponents in the first round. And so, yeah, still really excited to see the games that we played in the second round. Yeah, probably. Oh, yeah, that's right. Texas. Texas is the other team that I forgot somehow. Sorry, Longhorns. But yeah, Texas versus ASU being set up. A matchup of former Big 12 versus brand new Big 12. So, yeah, be excited to see how that one goes. Of course, for the good of the conference, I do hope that ASU makes a run. I don't feel like it's super realistic. Texas has a really good defense. And outside of Cam Scadaboo, I don't see ASU having much firepower, and so I feel like their luck runs out in this one. I hope I'm wrong, but of course we'll have to see when that comes along. Now just overall looking around at how the Big 12 has been doing in bowl games. So far, decent but not too hot so far. Kansas State so far is the lone Big 12 team to secure a victory as they beat Rutgers in the Rate Bowl. Great comeback in that one. Teams like West Virginia and Texas Tech have both lost theirs. West Virginia against number 25 Memphis and Texas Tech against Arkansas. So definitely some tough losses there. And yeah, currently there's also a couple teams playing. Last I checked, TCU was up big, just dominating against Louisiana. And then in a really good game, you got Iowa State taking on Miami. Lots of fireworks in that one. Kind of one of those defense optional games. So yeah, really excited to see how that one turns out. Yeah. And then, of course, BYU playing against Colorado tonight. Last game of the day for the Big 12. And so, yeah, really excited to see how all that goes. And a comment back on the CFP games. In my opinion, you look at some of these teams, I know there's kind of some talk about should SMU have been in, should Indiana have been in. You know, these teams just get blown out, so maybe they didn't deserve it. My personal opinion is I don't think we can definitively say that just because one game does not necessarily say everything for your whole season. Ultimately, definitely some big losses by lots of those teams in the first round. Straight chalk across the board. But at the same time, I look at this and I'm like, okay, definitely not quite the entertainment value we want typically. But I feel like all those teams, they played really well in the regular season. They earned it. And ultimately, those games did not go their way. They got blown out. I don't think we can definitively say that. There definitely is an argument. I don't know, maybe a couple teams here and there. But for example, SMU, I feel like SMU is a really solid team. And the truth is, the way they started the game, just terrible. Made a lot of bad plays, played some of their worst football. And total credit to Penn State. They played lights out. And so ultimately, SMU loses that one. And same can be said with lots of the other teams. Lots of them did not quite play up to their potential. So I don't feel like we can definitively say that. There definitely is an argument, but I don't think it should automatically be you lose in the playoffs. You didn't belong in the first place. Is basically just my point. Taking a look at BYU men's and women's basketball. BYU men's basketball won 103-57 against Florida A&M Friday night. Really good shooting night for the Cougs. Shooting 54 from the field and 44.3 from three. And so really solid there. They start conference play next week against Arizona State. BYU women's basketball lost to Arizona 47-53. Tough game. BYU was leading close to the end. Arizona takes the shot to put them ahead with only 20 seconds to go. Some crazy stuff happens toward the end. There was a play where a BYU player was trying to inbound the ball, threw it off and couldn't find anyone open, tried to throw it off an opponent's leg, hits the opponent's leg, bounces back, and hits her. So rough luck on that one. And yeah, tough loss, but team looked very good. The one big difference in this game opposed to some of the wins I saw in non-conference was just that Arizona did a really good job limiting BYU's game down in the paint. And so I feel like that's something BYU is going to need to adjust to, of course, because now you are playing against much tougher defense down low. A lot more skilled players down there, so definitely got to adjust to that, of course, which, of course, is what every team is doing, as we get into Big 12 play now, both men's and women's. And so, tough loss to Arizona. They do have a chance to bounce back next week, though, on Wednesday against Cincinnati. All right, now locking in on BYU football. Starting off, just taking a quick look around the transfer portal. A few BYU guys here and there have signed with their new schools. Jackson Bowers going to Oregon State. Cody Epps going to Western Kentucky. Good luck to all of them. A few guys still in the portal, maybe a few come back. I would love to see Crew Wakely specifically come back. Then again, today's probably the day when we're going to see a lot of announcements. BYU, in the meantime, of course, has brought in some pretty solid recruits as well. Especially on the defensive line, I'm really excited about what they're bringing in with Hunter Clegg. Coming off his mission, flipping to BYU, the lineman from Texas, and then there's also one from Southern Utah. And so I feel like BYU is setting themselves up pretty well. I'm not sure if I talked about it last time I did one of these, but Chase Roberts also announcing he'll be back for next season, which huge get for the Cougs. Even potentially guys like Darius Laster, Caleb Etienne come back. And so, looking at things now, I feel like BYU is doing a really good job with the transfer portal. They may not be getting all the top guys, but at the end of the day, they're fulfilling their needs. I think that's the most important thing in the portal. Of course, you want the highest rated guys possible, but as long as you're fulfilling your needs, nothing too much to worry about. And so I feel very good about it. I feel like BYU is building up to potentially make another run at the Big 12 championship game next year. All right, now looking at tonight's matchup, BYU versus Colorado. Very exciting game here. You could argue probably the two most popular teams throughout the course of the season in the Big 12. So I don't know, you can make that argument. So a lot of attention on this game. Of course, some two players that were in the top 10 in the Heisman voting, Shadir Sanders and Travis Hunter on the opposing team. It's going to be an exciting game. And this one, to me, looks very much like a coin flip. Colorado favored by 2.5. And if you look at ESPN analytics, they favor Colorado by about, I think, 49-ish%. But SP Plus favors BYU. That model. So going to be interesting to see what happens there. And kind of just looking at personnel all around. BYU with a couple tackles out. I believe Hyman Jada will not be playing, which is a major bummer there. And Crew Wakely, of course, in the transfer portal, so you are without one of your starting safeties. Still a lot of depth at that position. I'm not too worried there. As for Colorado, of course, I don't know too much about their lineup. But they do not have their starting running back in. This is a guy that ended up, I believe, starting their season finale against Oklahoma State, freshman running back. Get to that a little bit later. Also, their all-conference linebacker is currently in the portal. I don't know if he's signed or not. But either way, a little more hope for the Cougars running the ball, passing over the middle, all that, without a all-conference guy right there. So overall, kind of looking at this game, looking at how it's all going to work out, it's going to be really interesting to see. And, you got the star power of Colorado. You got BYU, a team that just all around, very solid, very good. BYU, a team that has stumbled a little bit down the stretch. And so definitely hoping to bounce back in this game. And so quickly just going to go through kind of a few of just kind of the matchups here between the BYU offense and the Colorado defense to start with, and then I will move on to the Colorado offense versus the BYU defense. What we're going to see there, for one thing, BYU has a lot of weapons for this game. You got Chase Roberts, Darius Lassiter, LJ Martin, all should be healthy. They've had a while since the last game. And Jake, a quarterback that has shown flashes of brilliance throughout the season, overall played very well. So excited to see what happens there. I feel like BYU is very versatile on offense. Now, where Colorado poses a big threat, I feel like, is they get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They're also pretty good at forcing turnovers, something BYU and them have in common. But yeah, they're very good at getting to the quarterback. So for Jake, he's going to be under pressure today. The line needs to do the best job they can, not letting too much of it get to him. And yeah, don't want to be having big negative plays. So that's going to be something to watch for. In the meantime, also a weakness for Colorado on defense. Maybe not a weakness, but they are in the bottom half of the FBS in this. So take that for what you will. They're not super great at defending against the run. So this is a team that BYU, in my opinion, should be able to run on. So that's going to be very important, especially, just controlling the clock in this game. You got an explosive offense on the other side, so I think it'll be very important to very much practice ball control. And then when you see the BYU defense going up against Colorado offense, for one thing, Colorado has probably the quarterback that will be taken first in the draft in Shadir Sanders. Travis Hunter at wide receiver, really good player out there. And really strong passing attack, although they are one of the worst rushing teams in the FBS, which, kind of makes sense. If you have such a good passing attack, you probably don't need to run as much. Good news for BYU, though. BYU has a very strong passing defense, and so be excited to see that matchup between the BYU secondary and Shadir Sanders. And so, and I feel like in this game it's going to be very important for BYU to keep Colorado one-dimensional, not allow them to really establish much of a rushing attack. I feel like that is something that has hurt BYU throughout the season, is when teams really get their rushing attack going, things can get kind of messy. So I feel like it's going to be very important that they do that. Also, the BYU defense, very good at forcing turnovers. That's going to be important in this game if you want to get stops. And another interesting matchup, BYU this season has not done super great at getting to the quarterback. Well, in the meantime, Colorado, one of the worst teams in the country in pass protection. They've allowed a lot of sacks on Shadir Sanders. And so I feel like it's going to be very important that BYU gets to the quarterback, overcomes that weakness. This is the game to do it. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. If BYU can get pressure, but they have a really good shot in this game. However, if Shadir Sanders has time to pass, this guy's really good and he could flame the BYU defense. So now overall, just kind of what this game means overall to BYU. In my opinion, kind of the way I look at it, for one thing, it's kind of salvaging the end of the season. Of course, the start of the season, really good. These last 3 games, they've gone 1-2 with that one win being against Houston. And of course, playing a competitive game against Arizona State isn't necessarily the worst thing. But definitely will be wanting to end with a win. I feel like kind of just my overall view, just on the whole season, I feel like a win here makes this a special season. A loss, it's still a great season, but at the end of the day, I feel like the special seasons are the ones that end with something amazing. Like you look back to like 2021, 2008, great seasons. BYU gets to double-digit wins, but they lose that last game, go home with no hardware, and so ultimately, just a little less memorable. Don't have those big moments. And this is probably BYU's biggest chance to win a postseason game. The biggest postseason win possible since, the Vegas Bowls back in the early 2000s, whatever you call that era. Really hoping to see the Cougars pull this one off. And a lot comes down to this chance for a huge win, winning against a ranked team in a bowl game, always big. Also, one last note before we get into the deciding factors for today's game. Both teams trying to break streaks of a sort. BYU, it has been 15 years since they last beat a power conference team in a bowl game, And for Colorado, they have not won a bowl game since 2004, the year I was born. So it's been quite a while for them. And so both teams trying to break those streaks coming into today. And yeah. All right, now looking at our deciding factors for today's game, number one, I would say, is contain Shadir Sanders. And you might say, wait, what about Travis Hunter, Heisman winner? In my opinion, I feel like a lot of that's going to come down to what you do against Sanders, though. Because if he has time to pass, he has time to air it out to Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is going to have a great game. Ultimately, it's that quarterback wide receiver connection. So I think it's going to be very important to contain him, get some pressure. Don't let him get the long bombs on you. Because I feel like that's probably Colorado's biggest hope in this game, is if they can get their offense just clicking, going fast, getting the big plays, then they have a very high chance to win this game. But if BYU can make them drive, make them take time, force them to have to be consistent, then I feel pretty confident that the BYU defense can have some success against this Colorado team, and the Cougars can come out with a win. All right, second deciding factor in this one, I'm going to say, is winning on the offensive line. Just because, for one thing, like I said before, you need to establish that running attack to be able to, control the ball, move the ball down the field. This is a team you should be able to run on, so I think you really got to win those battles on the offensive line, as well as protecting Jake Ratliff is going to be really important. This one, like I said before, Colorado really good at getting into the quarterback. So you got to do that. And then I might sound like a broken record. I've said this all year, but I feel like in this game it's true as well. For my third deciding factors, I'm going to say turnovers. You got to get some turnovers against this team. When you're going against a high-flying offense, one of the best things you can do is forcing turnovers, getting the ball back. And then, in the meantime, not giving up turnovers yourselves. Those things can spark that offense. And so, yeah, I'm saying those are going to be two very important factors for the Cougs if they are going to win this. Those three things are going to be very important for the Cougs if they are going to win this game against Colorado. And my bold prediction for this game is that I think that a Cougar is going to have a career high in this game of some sort, career high tackles by a defensive player, interceptions, passing yards for Jake Ratliff, rushing yards for LJ Martin. Someone's going to have a career high today. And all right, now for my final prediction. Going to do something a little fun. Going to do a jersey reveal. And just by me saying that, you might already be able to guess which way I'm picking on this one. I think this is going to be a tough game for the Cougs. I think that Colorado is going to throw a whole lot of that at them. But ultimately, I believe this BYU team is built to keep games close. They got the firepower to be able to pull one out in the end. And ultimately, I think the Cougars win this one. Oh, wait, wrong way. Let's go. All right, let's go, Cougs. I'm calling it. They are going to beat the Buffaloes today. I'm calling it shootout. Final score 41-38. And so, yeah, that's my prediction for that. Hopefully I'll be back later tonight for a post-game cool down. So, yeah, until then, go Cougs.